Change is the only constant here. Very rapid change, not just change, right? Is the person who joins this company coming in with a mindset where they are willing to adapt and change very quickly and learn very quickly. Being a generalist is not going to help. Pick something that you really love and go really deep, because you will be able to bring emotion to it. You'll be able to bring personality to it, which AI cannot do. And leave all the general things to AI.
Welcome to Supercompanies, my quest to understand how the smartest and most valuable companies will be built in the age of AI. I'm your host, Greg Shove, 7-time founder and CEO of Section AI. This episode, we're speaking with Sid Sheth, co-founder and CEO of D-Matrix. Sid and his company D-Matrix are building inference chips to make AI cheaper and faster, because the world's going to need a lot of cheap and fast AI, which is why he's raised $500 billion, has a $2 billion valuation, and only 250 employees. Sid is the CEO of a potential super company, and he's going to chat about his philosophy around managing change, the moment when he realized that his workforce would truly be an integration of agents and humans. I think you'll enjoy this conversation. Sid, welcome.
Thank you, Greg. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, and you're in the Bay Area. Obviously, you're in the South Bay, and this is where the company's based. And are you are you guys in person?
Yeah, we are in person. We don't have a mandated policy that you have to be here every day, but we do encourage everyone to be in the office 3 days a week. And it's been quite successful, actually. So many exciting things happening. Actually, people want to come into work.
And how often are you in? Are you one of these leaders that actually does it, or goes to your house in Napa and tells everybody else to go in the office?
You can call me old school, but I am in the office every day before 9, and then I leave late.
And do you have co-founders? Tell us about that.
Me and my co-founder, Sudeep, the CTO and co-founder of the company, he focused more on the technology. Obviously, I'm focused more on the business and financing and fundraisers and whatnot. We have known each other for a very long time. The previous business that I built was a company called Infi, where I built them their data center business. Sudeep was my partner in crime there, where he was CTO for that business. That business eventually grew to $3 billion in revenue from zero. We have been married before, and this is not our first marriage.
I'm going to ask you a question about super companies. And if you agree, great, we're going to have a great conversation. If you don't, this might be a short episode. Before I ask my question about super companies, tell us what D-Matrix does, but keep it short and dumb it down for me.
Yeah, so I think everyone has heard about training. Everyone has heard about inference.
The answers you get from AI, basically, right?
That's right. Every time you query ChatGPT and it responds back, that's inference, right? And we are building a solution that really speeds up how quickly AI can respond to humans.
What was the insight you had in 2019? That seems pretty early to me.
I've been in the data center business for 20 plus years now, when people were not even building data centers, right? Because we went into the world of cloud computing and then AI came along. We had a ringside seat to what was happening with AI, because the AI transition had just started in 2015, 2016. And the chips that we were building at Infi were being used to connect AI computing clusters.
And so you were selling those chips to OpenAI and those guys?
OpenAI was not around still. It was Google, Amazon, Microsoft, all the hyperscalers deploying these chips to connect GPUs. And these clusters were getting bigger and bigger. They wanted more bandwidth. That is what led to us probing and talking to customers and trying to understand what is it that they're really trying to solve for. They educated us. We learned a lot about the fact that once you train these models, they're deploying it in their fleets. They're using it to make their search better. They're using it to make tools better, right? But it was really restricted to internal use, right? For the most part, it was not really available to the people on the outside.
Yeah.
And the education that they gave us was there will come a time when these AI models will become substantially capable, where they are very applicable to not just the internal tools and properties that these hyperscalers have, but will become really applicable to everyone on the outside. What does that world look like? Because now you suddenly need gobs and gobs of inference because you're deploying lots and lots of AI. In that world, what are the constraints? The constraints are going to be compute, it's going to be energy. And efficiency suddenly begins to play a very important role, because when you're deploying inference on a global scale, you have only limited amounts of energy on the planet. So how do you effectively run so much compute with the amount of energy you have? And more importantly, when you take this out to the broader world and you make it available to consumers, they care a lot about interacting. Speed becomes very important. These hyperscalers might have more patience dealing with AI, but people on the outside don't have that level of patience, right? So it became very clear to us that we need to build a solution that is dedicated for inference. How do you make it fast? And how do you make it efficient from an energy perspective, assuming that this is going to be deployed on a global scale?
All these analogies we've been using last 2 or 3 years, inference will be like electricity, AI will be everywhere, we'll just plug into it. And Is that your perspective? You've been on the inside and early. What do you see in the next 2 or 3 years in terms of how this unfolds? That we're all going to have near unlimited access to great inference, and that's the way we're going to live and work? Is that your vision of the future?
That's absolutely the vision. I know there's a lot of fear about what AI can do, but really at the end of the day, it's a tool that augments humans. The ones that will embrace it to make themselves better will be wildly successful. And it's getting to a point, I think AI is now getting to a point where, especially after what happened end of last year with Cloud Code and OpenClaw, those were two watershed moments for inference, right? Up to that point, I think a lot of the talk was about training models and capabilities unleashed from training bigger and bigger models. Then we had the DeepSeek moment early part of last year where we quickly realized that it's not just about training big models. You can actually take big models and distill them down to small models and make them more efficient. And then you had the Cloud Code moment and the agentic OpenClaw moment. For the first time, you could actually have a layperson use these models embedded into their workflows and use it for daily productivity enhancement. It fundamentally became easy to use. And I think we are only 3 or 4 months into this. I just fast forward 3 to 4 years. The world is going to look very different. I think AI is going to be everywhere. I think cost is really going to be the main issue. How do we make this really affordable to everyone? And cost is coming down very rapidly.
Is cost going to keep coming down? What's your sense of what we should expect as maybe consumers, or if we're running our own company?
Cost is coming down. If you look at a comparable unit of intelligence from a year ago, the cost is an order of magnitude lower today. The amount of intelligence you're getting per dollar is actually staying flat because while the cost is coming down, the intelligence is going up. You can't infinitely keep getting smarter, right? The intelligence curve will flatten out, but the cost curve will keep going down. And then you will start seeing dramatic declines in intelligence per dollar, right? And the proliferation will keep increasing.
Is there enough margin for these guys, though? I guess just focusing for now on Anthropic and OpenAI as proxies, really, for the business model of that part of the business. Do you have confidence they'll find enough margin?
So volume economics are just kicking in. Today is not the time to play the margin game, right? It is really capability and adoption curves that have to be pushed. So I think about a few years out, when the volume economics kick in 100%, they'll be making money. They'll be very wildly profitable.
All right. And buying lots of your chips.
Oh, absolutely. That's a must.
Here's my super company question. I believe we're entering the era of super companies. I think super companies are built and managed differently than previous generations of high-performing companies. So previous generations today would be, of course, Google and Amazon and Netflix and Databricks. I believe we're entering a new era of wealth creation, of value creation. I think every category in industry will have super companies, meaning their products will be likely informed and leverage AI, but more importantly, they're going to operate internally differently, as you suggested with AI. And that one of the ways we'll be able to spot these companies is they're just going to be very efficient. They're going to have very high revenue per employee numbers as one metric. Do you believe we're entering the era of super companies? That's my first question.
Absolutely, 100%. We've been saying this for a long time.
Well, good, because that means we can keep talking. So what I want to talk about, Sid, is how are you building the company on the inside? Your company's still pretty small in terms of employee, but mighty. And that's what I think super companies are. I would imagine all the technologists in your firm are augmented to the max with AI, I would imagine. So how's that going? And do you feel like your business functions are equally as augmented or jacked on AI?
This is a very important question. I think to me, it is really about the ethos you build, right? We are living in a time where culture becomes really important. What kind of culture are you building inside the company, right? As a startup, I think you obviously have a unique advantage because you can start clean slate. You're building an ethos. And I think one of the things that we have focused on, and by the way, this transcends all functions in the company, right? This is engineering, business, everything, is are you willing to embrace and learn quickly, right? So change is the only constant here. We are living in a world of change and very rapid change, not just change, right? Is the person who joins this company coming in with a mindset where they are willing to adapt and change very quickly and learn very quickly. So embrace a very growth mindset.
I'm not disagreeing. It does seem like you need growth mindset to the max though, right? This ethos you have, was it always that way, meaning from 2019, or did you refresh it?
First of all, I'm that kind of guy, right? And my co-founder is that kind of guy. So I think both of us have that ethos to begin with, and then we attract people around us who have the same ethos, right? It's been there from day one.
Okay.
Maybe the AI tools were not there. We didn't have AI to use as a tool inside the company back then. Competition was moving very rapidly around us. Architectures were changing very rapidly around us. And the pace at which all those things were changing only accelerated post ChatGPT, right? So how do you build a team that can respond to these changes in real time, make pivots very rapidly, focus on what is real, and focus on what will really make impact and keep the product competitive. All these things are a culture. And then, of course, what has happened in the last few months is with the arrival of AI, we are using it as a tool to accelerate how quickly we can do all of these things. Right. So it was not like we responded to something that was happening on the outside in 2023 and made the culture around that.
In terms of that 2023 timeframe, were you one of those CEOs saying, I want everybody using ChatGPT or Claude or whatever? There was a lot of both hype and then CEO kind of edicts. Did you need to do that or did you? Or what was your mindset?
I didn't need to mandate it because people just adopted it. It had limited uses for a company like ours. But I think with the arrival of Claude Code, that completely changed. I mean, by February, we had rolled it out to pretty much everyone in the organization. So we ran a pilot in Jan. We rolled it out in Feb. And now I've appointed my co-founder, AI czar.
Do you expect business people to be building agents or working inside a co-work? Or is your expectation that we all should have this builder mindset?
I leave it to each user. I'm not mandating how they use it as long as they use it. And I think what I'm more interested in is not how, but what. What are they doing with this? Because every person has a different use case. Now that we have a team that is overlooking all the different use cases, we actually incentivize all the users to send in the different ways they're using the tool. Not only that, we have a kind of a central repository in the company where people can drop in all their different use cases.
But is your expectation now that the company runs on AI internally?
Very much. Absolutely.
What about the business functions? What's your expectation of a marketer or a salesperson or finance person? Should they be AI fluent by now?
Absolutely. Financial analysis, financial reports, summaries. It's just phenomenal at that kind of stuff.
You're growing. So my guess is there was no concerns about job loss or anxiety. I think larger orgs suffer from this, right?
If there was anxiety, I didn't see it. I would be remiss if I said that there was none. As a startup, because the mission is overpowering, I think this becomes less of a concern.
My sense of this, Sid, is that in fact, bigger companies are going slower and startups are accelerating faster. The divide between a super company and incumbent, I actually think it's widening, because I think startups are so able to get these technologies and this augmentation embedded much faster. To your point, Claude Code was last November, right? I think this really is going to be gnarly for incumbents.
Are you seeing that? Where do you see the maximum risk? Which segments of the economy or which type of companies are less likely to transition into or miss out on the opportunity to be a super company?
Incumbents have huge advantages, as you know, brands and distribution and customers and capital and so on. They're not going to be easy to unseat, but it wouldn't surprise me if this kept accelerating.
It's really an opportunity to me. I think anyone who does embrace this has a way to really turbocharge your business, right? The message to the company was, look, guys, this is very important to me and is very important to the founders. We're not taking this lightly. And obviously that is founders, have that special place where they can do things that most other folks would not be able to do. And this was so important to me that I really wanted him to take charge of this. And so it was a founder mandate. It was a CEO mandate. And people have no choice. It's not like you can sit there and squabble over this, whether we're going to use this or not. This is coming. This is something you have to use. You have to embrace and find ways to use it. You may not even know how to use it right now. That's okay.
I just find it fascinating that you're a company making inference chips, basically, and you still had to bring this level of sort of spotlight or energy or focus on the idea of using AI internally, because it's a different way of working.
You're basically introducing a new form of intelligence into your organization, right? So there is human intelligence, and now there is this new parallel intelligence that is coming in, and it's initially threatening to a lot of humans. And so I think you need to understand the psychology at work, and we understand your fears and concerns. But the best way to address them is embrace it. Don't fight it. If you fight it, it's going to get worse, right?
I think this moment is worth highlighting because we've been talking about machines and humans working together and agents and humans, and we're going to have new org charts. We've been talking about that for years. You can start 3 or 4 agents in the morning, and then you have a day of meetings and Zoom calls and customer calls, whatever. And then at 4 or 5 o'clock, you're getting exhausted, but you got 5 agents waiting for some feedback. And so I've got some of my strongest employees saying, I got to put the kids down and have dinner. And then I got to go back and actually work with my agents for an hour. They're sort of exhilarated by it, and they're also exhausted by it.
I think we have a similar situation, right? So I think the maximum usage for us is in coding, right? Now, what happens is agents, I have an employee, he has built his own org, right? He's got a chief architect, 5 designers, 3 coders, right? And these agents go off and write up all this code. But now who's going to validate that code? So what is happening to many of the engineers is they're generating more code than they can validate.
Right.
And the validation process is something that you still have to get a human involved in the loop. So there is a point of diminishing returns here. You can unleash these things and you'll get to a point where you don't quite know what is really going to help you or not, right?
Are we going to build validation agents, do you think? What is the solve to that? I don't think the solve is going to be use less agents, because I think we're all going to want more and more efficiency and productivity. And my guess is the solve is find a way to do that validation in a more efficient way.
That's right. That's right. And I think you might be able to build the code gen agents and the code validation agents, right? Two separate agents built differently with a different mindset, right? And they can keep each other honest. But even there, you need to, because this is code you're going to put into production, a customer is going to deploy. So you really can't not have a human in the loop. You really do need somebody to go take a look at this and make sure it has been tested, validated, it's clean. Because the implications of deploying something that a customer is affected by is business critical.
You can't blame Claude, right? The customer won't accept that answer, right? And is that what's happening at OpenAI and Anthropic right now? They're all boasting about AI is writing the AI, and some percentage of the latest release of a model was written by AI. So your assumption, obviously, is that there are some humans in the loop at the end of that process to validate that code inside these companies.
100%. 100%. The QA process for code is still a human-centric process, right? You can't just make it all AI.
So I really want to get a little more personal here. Sid, how are you feeling about this, or how are you working in any different ways, and or how are you thinking about your role as a CEO? Talk to me a little bit more around you leading a super company. How's that feeling, and what might be changing for you?
So I think, again, two parts, right? There is the human intelligence aspect and the AI intelligence aspect. It does make me more productive when it comes to how I get access to my information, right? Now, but beyond that, the human part, I'm not really changed that a whole lot. If anything, I'm trying to work my value system based on what is happening to the population around me. What do I want to amplify? Where do I want to give the team more time? Where do I not want to give them more time? Where is it time to be ruthless about building the product? And where is it time to be thoughtful about building the product? And the part of it is because I have AI help me work through all my information, I have more time to do these other human things.
So you believe that? You're not just saying that?
I'll give you a simple example, right? I had a board meeting just 2 weeks ago, right? Typically, I open the board meeting with my kind of highlights and call it lowlights, areas of challenges in the company, right? And it's a summary of everything that happened in the company in that quarter, right?
Yep.
And I typically look at all the information through all my emails, through the history and everything that's in my head, and compile that one slide, which is State of the Union, call it. And I just gave it to Claude Code. I said, look, go do this for me. You have all the information in my inbox. What would you call the highlights and the lowlights? And why don't you work on it? And it was working on it. It started cranking on it. I went to the gym with my two boys. Otherwise, I would have sat there making that slide for 45 minutes or 1 hour. I went to the gym with them, came back, and the slide was ready. And it got like 70% right, maybe not 100% right. But then I went in and fine-tuned it, which took me like, 10 minutes, 15 minutes?
I love it. But by the way, I love the fact you work out with your boys. So how old are your kids?
So my boys are 16 and 14.
And how often do you guys work out together?
So we do 3 times a week. That's my special time with them.
I did pretty well. I got all of our kids, no felonies to college. So call me if you need advice.
College, I love that.
Is this conversation happening inside the company around the kind of company you want to be or will become, and maybe even implications for kids and schooling? I sense a lot of anxiety and just a lot of questions around how's this all going to go down the next 5 or 10 years at a societal level, at a family kid level in terms of education, at a company level. Is that bubbling up yet in terms of your management meetings or all hands?
Yeah, I think it's not really bubbling up at a company staff level yet. I think it's still very early, right, for most of these folks. I have people outside the company actually approach me for career advice, people within the company bringing their kids to me and saying, you have this transitional generation of kids that are just coming out of college, that many of them were not fully AI native because they went to college 4 years ago. Things were very different.
Yeah.
Now they're coming out of college, the world has changed on them.
Yeah.
And courses they took may not be super relevant. So how do you navigate this?
What is your advice to those kids? Because I totally agree. That's a cohort that are not AI native in terms of the kids in middle school or starting high school are right now. Any advice that you're giving to those kinds of kids?
My very simple advice I tell them is being a generalist is not going to help. I think being a domain specialist is really going to help, right? Because AI is going to be able to generalize very well, right? So I'm telling kids like, look, this is your chance where you pick something that you really love and go really deep, because you will be able to bring emotion to it. You'll be able to bring personality to it. You'll be able to bring your own color to it, which AI cannot do. And leave all the general things to AI. So don't try to be I see so many kids that have a highly generalized set of courses that they've taken. And that was good like 5 years ago to go find a job, but not anymore.
And then in terms of your hiring, you talked about growth mindset, obviously, really is the key sort of attribute you're looking for. How do you screen for that when you think about bringing people into the company? Or do you? Is it intuition, or is there some other way you try to screen for it?
These are attributes that people either have or don't have, right? And by the way, that's the attribute that I am asked to screen for, right? Because my team is screening for technical capability, technical competence, and I'm screening for that growth mindset. And I just have to weave it into the conversation. Ask a person about something that didn't work well in their career, and how did they respond to that? What did they learn from it? Simple question like that will tell you a lot. I see a lot of people just either BSing through that.
Right.
I see a lot of people not really being genuine about that, right?
So what are you looking for then in that answer? You're looking for authenticity would be one. What else are you looking for in that answer? Self-awareness? Anything else?
Self-awareness is a big one. When they learn something, how do they apply it for the future? Or in general, how do they apply themselves with all the knowledge that they have? I think that is really what I'm looking for. If there is a person who knows how to apply themselves, is willing to learn, I think you've solved 50%, 70% of the problems in terms of building the right culture.
This feels like everything's now moving really fast. I would describe myself as exhilarated, and terrified is not the right word. Exhilarated and exhausted, maybe, is how I would describe my experience. How do you feel? How should others feel if they're trying to build a super company in this moment? Like, what are we signing up for?
Go all in. Just go all in. I think it's a very unique time. Maybe building a super company 15, 20 years ago took 10 plus years, right? Call it. You can build a super company now in like less than 5 years, right? So I think it is opportunity. I would go run and embrace it. You won't get another chance like that.
Because we're so early and it's open, basically, is what you're saying.
It's a gold rush, right? You can call it that. Once people figure out how to build a super company, then the competitive advantage is gone. Everyone's trying to figure this out, right? So while everyone's trying to figure this out, you can go do something different and be the guy who does it.
I agree. The other thing I want to say and close on is super companies don't have to be big. And they don't have to be venture backed. I think super companies can be 10 people. To your point, exploit the moment, exploit your knowledge of a niche or a domain, a market, a vertical, a geography, build something, a product or service first, and then a company. It can be small. How much money have you raised? Don't apologize for it. How much have you raised? 250 million?
We've raised $500 million so far.
Yeah. Oh my, that's crazy. So you don't need to do that, right? But I think super companies will be of every size, right? They'll be across the continuum. Anthropic, I think, looks like they've positioned themselves. They've had a great few months. I think they're poised to be the world's first super company. We won't know for 10 more years at least. You guys are on the right track. So you have great value per employee. And again, your RPE is probably going to start to increase as well in terms of revenue per employee. So you're on your way, Sid. It's impressive. Also impressive that you were so early. And we all want cheap inference fast. So what you're doing seems important. I think we're all going to get benefit from it. So I appreciate that. Yep. Thanks for joining us on this podcast, Sid.
Cool. Thanks for having me, Greg. Wonderful chatting with you. Yeah.
So I love the fact that Sid is using AI to free up a little bit of time so that he can go work out in the gym with his teenage boys 3 times a week. That's good parenting, and that's good use of AI. It's also clear why Sid's been able to raise $500 million. He's just very calm, smart, convicted, and optimistic about an AI future and the world's need for cheaper and faster AI. I also appreciate the fact that he and his organization didn't really get all in on AI until the last few months, that the chatbots were probably useful. The free versions were good enough. And it seems like it really wasn't until Claude and Claude Code and now Cowork that his organization really committed and his expectations increased in terms of employees and their adoption of these technologies to get real productivity and efficiency gains out of them. I also appreciate that Sid admitted what we all know. There is no manual to build a super company, and he certainly doesn't have it. He's learning as he goes, bringing his own growth mindset to the problem. But that's the opportunity. Whatever industry or vertical or geography that we all work in, try to build a super company. In this moment, where these technologies are getting so powerful and performant, new companies working in new ways are going to get built. They're going to have real advantages over incumbents and other competitors. And certainly, he's off to a good start. Thanks for listening to Super Companies. Next episode, we're talking more about company culture and AI with Taylor Malmsheimer, someone who's had almost every job at Section, is now head of product and one of the co-founders of the company. She's going to talk about the top 10 questions that any leader needs to answer inside their organization about AI and its impact on the workforce. Between now and then, you can find me online at gregshove.com, where you can sign up for my newsletter, also called Super Companies. If you've got other questions or challenges in building your own super team or a super company, drop me a line at podcast@sectionai.com. And if you've got a second, please leave us a rating, a review, or subscribe. It'll be a big help to me and help other people find this show.